30-second board, hot topics in the sport. Quick shout out to NBC Sports Now. This is a different NBC Sports or NBC channel that only exists on a couple of platforms. You might need to look into seeing if you have it, because they will be playing a Supercross marathon this weekend. You can find that channel on Peacock, of course, but also the Roku channel, Pluto TV, Zumo, Samsung TV Plus, and more. I actually found I had it on my TV. I didn't even realize I did. So getting a marathon of 2024 races, this will really be cool. Just more eyeballs on SMX.
Yeah, I love my sleep, Weege, as you know. It takes a lot for me to stay up late. I think a Supercross marathon might do it, so we're going to put that to the test. But speaking of putting things to the test, I got to try out that new Alpine Stars, the Tech Air MX is actually what it's called. I know it's a mouthful, but this is a really cool innovation. They're just trying to keep riders safer. And this is something that in MotoGP, racing on the street, that they've been using for a long time inside their suits. And it's really made a big difference. And Chad Reed's been very instrumental in working through this new item. Austin Faulkner debuted it. I got to try it on. Now, if you watch the video, you're going to see me really react to that. It only just surprised me. It's not painful, anything like that. Not anything. I just didn't expect it to be so explosive so quickly. But when you think about a crash, that's exactly what you want. It's going to absorb all of that injury. And in talking to Chad Reed about it, when you crash, there's so much noise and you don't even notice that it actually happened. You just don't really feel anything. You don't feel the impact of the ground. So this innovation, I think, is really important as we continue to move forward, and the speeds are only getting faster as the bikes improve, and this is a big step, Weege. All right, let's give this thing a try.
3, 2, 1, go.
That was more violent than I was expecting, but I'm here, so hopefully this is going to keep a lot of people safe here in Super Motocross.
So now let's move to the 250 East Division. Two riders who probably would like a mulligan would be RJ Hampshire and Levi Kitchen. Let's start with Kitchen. The result was not good, just barely inside the top 10. This is the guy who nearly won 250 West last year. But when you watched him ride, was he actually okay? Was it just a start and problems like that?
This was a worrying, confusing ride from Levi Kitchen for me. I didn't really see any flash. I didn't see him near the top in qualifying in the afternoon. He didn't have a good heat race, and he didn't have a good main event. And I heard that he was very sick for a very long time throughout January, and that kept him off the motorcycle for a lot longer than he wanted to be. Now, he kind of quieted that at the press conference, saying he thought it was kind of a reset and rejuvenated him a bit. I didn't see any of that on Saturday night. So of all these riders, all the chaos that went on, that was a concerning ride from Levi Kitchen, because I didn't see any flash at all. Bad start, okay, but I need to see speed and the things that are going to tell me that he's going to be better down the line, and I simply didn't see it.
A little bit of the opposite for Hampshire, who had a major wrist problem, told everybody he had a major wrist problem, kind of tempered expectations due to lack of prep. But then he goes out and wins the heat, and he rode well in the main. He just got stuck on that tough block. I will say this, don't go off the track and you won't get stuck on the tough block. That's partially on him, but that was a much bigger penalty than you would have thought. But I was actually impressed with how well he rode, considering that's legit his lack of prep time.
Yeah, when you buy a ticket for the RJ Hampshire experience, you're going to get all of it. You're going to get really fast qualifying, you're going to get heat race wins, and you might get stuck on a tough block for 2 laps. You just have no idea what's going to happen when you jump onto that train. But completely opposite from Kitchen, I liked what I saw from his riding. He looked fast because I didn't think he was really ready yet. I didn't think he had ridden a lot, but those concerns for me are now gone. It's just avoiding the things that you're always hoping RJ can avoid, which is crashing and mistakes. And it doesn't take much, just one slide of the front tire to the left, and he lands off the side of the track, and his main event's completely ruined. So we'll see where it goes from here, but I'm much more optimistic about results coming from RJ than I was from what I saw from Levi.
Yeah, the Malcolm Stewart story at the top is definitely the headline and the feel-good probably of the year. I don't know if anyone's going to top that all season long, but that was so much the theme of what we saw at Tampa and what we're going to be seeing in Detroit, that perseverance. So Hampshire and Kitchen trying to bounce back, Tomac and Roxon trying to bounce back. Let's talk about a couple other riders who we also knew were grinding through with injuries. We got Cameron McAdoo riding with a torn ACL, Chance Hymas coming back early from ACL surgery, and then also Eli, who is clearly riding through pain. Impressive what these athletes are able to do.
Yeah, different scenarios. Hymas, he knew that this was going to be a struggle coming in for weeks, if not months from now. He knew Tampa was going to be tough. McAdoo's injury was just a week ago, and his head has probably been spinning ever since, trying to figure out how he's going to salvage 2025 in total. He came out swinging. What a performance from McAdoo. That theme of courage really showed up for all of them. They all found a way to fight through a lot of pain and a lot of uncertainty to maybe not get the best result, but get a result on Saturday night.
We're calling this moving day because there was so much movement in the 450 Monster Energy AMA Supercross point standings. We got a graphic we can show you here. I don't even know where to start. One thing I do want to mention is Hunter Lawrence. We had so much other news to report in this show. Let's not forget that he went out on the first lap of his heat race and not sure his status for Detroit. So that's double bad news for the Lawrence brothers. Obviously, he's drifted back in points. What else jumps out to you, JT?
Well, it's funny. When we were on the podium, I always try to kind of let the riders know what the point situations are. So if they want to add to their podium conversation about the points, they have that information. And when it was relayed back to me, I was like, wait, what? Because I would have believed anything at that point. You could have told me that Webb had the lead, Sexton had the lead. What I didn't think was that Jason Anderson was going to be third in points. But then when you stop and slow down and think about it, he's got 3 podiums in 5 races. So it doesn't sound that crazy, but the way racing has gone, and Roczen and Tomac and Jet, like, you're like, wait, Anderson's third? Like, so it didn't make sense. This has been a crazy series. And I think the only thing we can expect is the unpredictability factor. That's, expect the unexpected is all we can do at this point.
Yeah, of that top 10, only Chase Sexton and Justin Barcia didn't move through the points and their ranking where they were coming into Tampa, which leads us to this. It's changed so quickly. Jet Lawrence out, Roczen finishes way back, Tomac finishes back, and are we already down to Cooper Webb versus Chase Sexton? And if we are, what do you think when you hear that?
It certainly felt that way leaving Tampa. I think everybody was like, well, and then there was 2. And we'll see what this week brings. But, if you remove Jet Lawrence from the picture last year, that's what it would have been. So these are still 2 of the usual suspects that we considered to be in this championship fight anyway. These 2 are very familiar with each other. They know their tendencies extremely well. And you think about a battle like Seattle last year in 2024, that may be what we're in store for, a battle between these 2 where they really lean into tracks that work for each other, because I believe that their skill sets and their strengths are very, very different, and they're both going to try to attack maybe the other rider's weakness.
And just as crazy, the 250 East division. So I think we knew Max Anstie would be good coming in. You said last week the only question you had about Anstie and his new teammate, Pierce Brown, was starts. Really bad news there for Brown, who crashed while leading. T5 vertebrae fracture. He's going to be out for a bit. So we send our thoughts to him. But they did answer the starts thing. And if Anstie keeps up like this, I think he's a known commodity. But do we know anything else about anybody else in that class?
Well, Anstie, he started really strong last year too, and he just couldn't find a way to stay up there. Now, this Yamaha, we know how potent that motorcycle has been for virtually everybody who's ridden it. Maybe this is the missing ingredient that he needed. And maybe with all that experience, and think about, he was racing a 250 in Supercross 15 years ago. So he's seen it and done it. But they look like, whether it's Bennick or, unfortunately, we know what happened with Pierce Brown, but he was lights out before that. And Max Anstie, all of them looked like they were the most prepared coming in. Like, they looked like they had done their homework, and that's showing up on Saturdays. So, I don't know where you find the weak spot in Max Anstie's game right now, because he looked like he had it completely buttoned up on Saturday night.
We mentioned a lot of other contenders there. Let's not forget the 250 East champ, Tom Vial, who had an okay day. Just an okay day, hovering around the top 5. Nothing special, not as bad as what we mentioned with Kitchen and Hampshire, for example, or Pierce Brown. But yeah, the Anstie let everybody know that pretty much exactly as good as you'd expect him to be. But one rider that would be really hard to predict, statistically impossible to predict, would be Jason Anderson. You mentioned already, JT, 3 podiums in 5 rounds, but it is all over the map for the 21. I don't even know. He might be a title contender at this point. Maybe he already is.
Well, that was a topic of conversation going in to Glendale about where he'd had 2 podiums in 3 rounds. The last time he had done that was 2018, and he was the champion that year. And then, to be fair, he just laid an egg in Glendale. I don't really know what that was. I expected a lot more. But then if you frame out and look at the big picture, he's 3rd in points, 3 podiums, 5 rounds. Now the question is going to be, he's had 1 good, 1 bad, 1 good, 1 bad, 1 good. So what is Detroit? Is Detroit going to be bad again? But we've seen him be great in Detroit before. We have seen him put in solid rides at this round. So your guess is as good as mine. But if you're just thinking about the overall picture and you're Monster Energy Kawasaki and you lost Jorge Parado and you're hoping that Jason Anderson can show up in 2025 and give you something, he's doing that. 3 podiums, 3rd in points. We're going to Detroit. I think it's a really good setup for them overall if they take the big picture approach.
Okay, and one more element to analyze would be the track itself for Ford Field at Detroit. So here's the track map. What are you thinking?
Well, it's that same football style layout, long lanes, not so different than what we saw last week in Raymond James Stadium. And I think the interesting thing, if you've never been to this race, you think, well, it's in the Northeast, it's in the middle of winter, it's going to be crazy, tacky, ruddy. Not always the case here in Detroit. This dirt, it gets pretty dry and a little bit slippery for the main event. So it should be fine. It's just not going to be that Indianapolis, Minneapolis type scenario where it's a rut fest. That's not what this race is going to be about. Now, we do have one sand section that was a big topic of conversation in Tampa, but it's just one corner, so it shouldn't cause all of the issues that Tampa saw. But overall, pretty straightforward approach to this racetrack. I don't think it's going to be anything that the rider's going to have a challenge with. And once again, the starts are going to be critically important. So first lap positioning could tell the tale.
Well, that's it. I think we've given you everything you could possibly need to know for the Detroit round of Monster Energy Supercross, except when the race takes place and where you can watch it. This is a day race. I cannot stress that enough. This is a day race on Eastern time. So race day live qualifying coverage begins at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and the racing begins at 3 o'clock Eastern. That's the similar schedule to what we had last year when we went to Detroit, if that makes it any more easily understood. It is a day race. There will be a re-air on Sunday afternoon on NBC at 2 o'clock Eastern. Of course, you can watch everything live on Peacock and or the SMX Video Pass if you live outside the United States. So that's when, and we know where, and we think we know a lot coming into this race. But if the last 2 weekends have shown us anything, JT, it doesn't matter what we thought we know. It changes in a hurry.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.